G'day guys, it's Steve here. Aren't you lucky? You've got virtual me to try and tell you how to use the new MailChimp template. So stick with it and we'll get through the basics as usual. Any questions, phone me, email me, you know the drill. We're assuming that everyone who's watching this has been using MailChimp with the club and has been using the version 1 of our template. We've had a bit of work with the comms group, refreshing our style guide, and part of that includes an updated template, which will give us a more modern and fresher appearance on the newsletter, and hopefully also make creating the newsletter a little bit less painful. We'll go back into, by the way, I'm recording this live to disk with no helpers and not much rehearsal, so please bear with me and we'll see how we can get going. We go back to the computer here and we can stick me in the corner. Let's have a look at the agenda. We're going to do a quick recap on MailChimp. We're going to do a quick recap on preparing photographs for the newsletter. Then we're going to look into this new style guide and our campaign template V2 for MailChimp, which are the new parts. Just to recap on MailChimp, it contains a single master subscriber list, which I'll talk about in a little more detail in a second. It's important to realize that this is simply email recipients for our newsletters and it is not a member database. There are many people who are in our subscriber list who are not members, and in fact some of our members choose not to subscribe to our email lists and are not present there. When people register, which is happening at this time of year, of course, the admin, Darce or myself, will grab all the new registered players and parents in the case of juniors and add them to the MailChimp subscriber list. So as people subscribe within the week, you can be happy that they should be in the mailing list and available on your segment without you doing any further work. So we have this field called Send Me Information About, which is our key MailChimp segment, which is used to send newsletters to a subset of our mailing list, mostly here sections. So the junior, men's, masters, women's newsletters uses the Send Me Information About segment to do that subset of recipients. We've got a new thing I'm going to talk about, which is some further segmentation available by tags. At the moment, if you look in MailChimp, we have a number of audiences, and that is not ideal. They've been set up, as you can see, for specific purposes here, but what happens in the first instance is it makes our compliance with MailChimp's anti-spam requirements quite difficult. For example, one user may unsubscribe from the main mailing list. If we continue to send them mail from one of these other audiences, we're in breach of the spam regulations. But more important than that, we're doubling up our user count here, and we're actually paying multiple times. If a user exists, a single recipient exists in more than one of these audience lists, we're paying for them twice or three times. So we really want to clean that up and get rid of these additional audiences and have everyone in the one and only overall mailing list. And this is where tags come in, because tags can provide the same functionality that some of you would have set those additional audiences up for in the first place. When you import users, and remember, you can import users who are already existing in the list, and if you select the update audience tag, it will just apply any new information. So say, for example, we had a list of summer masters. We could import them and we could just introduce a new tag here, Summer Masters 2021, and that is then going to allow us to create a new segment using any permutation of those tags. So you can see that's going to allow us to send quite directed newsletters out to a small subset of our audience without having to duplicate the people and pay multiple times. Photo assets, again, add vibrancy to a newsletter, super important. The photos, of course, can be linked to the full-size image, to videos, to documents and web pages. It's important, if you can, to size and crop the images to approximately the correct size outside MailChimp. This prevents us sending out super huge image assets in people's email, and makes it more likely that the recipient's message that they receive is going to look like what we sent out. If you send image assets that are too big, some email clients are going to do unexpected things in dealing with that and resizing it. There's now 3 key widths of photos, basically depending on if you expect the photo to be in a 1-column, 2-column, or 3-column presentation. So the specific widths, 600, 210, and 188 are what's used by the template. Anyone using external editors, if you get the widths anywhere near that for the use, will be helpful. New in MailChimp recently is the ability to use their content manager, which is where they store all the images and assets that are used in the campaigns. You can now access that directly in the main menu to search, upload, and retrieve links of images that are already there. Sometimes we upload images and particularly logos and sponsor type information over and over again. If you go into Content Manager and search, you might find that the image or logo file you want to use is already existing. Okay, style guide. So we're into new stuff now. So in the past few months, Tony Coombs, one of the Camberwell member, who's a graphic designer, had a look at all our printed and digital material and came up with a style guide, which I'll show you in a second. The style guide basically defines the colors, fonts, and layouts of our printed and digital media. It includes, as I'll show you, some posters using this kind of dot figures in the background. They can be created for you on request from the comms committee. We need to use the official club logos only, which can be distributed if you need them. They've been redone by Tony using the new fonts and spacing. But basically, the style guide sets out the colors. So we've got our main tangerine color. That code in there is the hex code of the color. So anything you're doing digitally, if you are asked to set a color, you'll be able to express the color as that hexadecimal number. And that gives you precisely the correct shade of tangerine there. And of course, we've got our royal blue one with that hexadecimal reference. New in the current style guide are 4 secondary colors, which you can use for highlighting and to give a bit of variety. Those hexy codes are there. By the way, of course, I will distribute this slide deck as a PDF, and I will give you the style guide as well, so you don't need to try and scribble down any notes as you're watching me going along here. Fonts. So previously in MailChimp we were using Verdana. Tony has specified an alternate font, and the closest approximation we have that is a web-safe font that we can be sure that the majority of recipients will have on their system is Arial. So we'd like in the newsletter all fonts to be set in Arial. For headers, they should be bold, 30 points. For subheaders, bold, 24 points. And for the body text, regular font, 14-point text. In the new template, we've actually done a little bit of work to make these easy to use with template styles. So rather than you having to set all these fonts directly, you can use the heading 1, heading 2, and default text settings in this little style drop list. So if you highlight the text that you want to change, you can then just simply select the appropriate style from the drop-down box. Okay, powering along, template V2. So template V1 used the old MailChimp template engine. We did this quite deliberately because it gave us a consistent structure. As you know, the spots where you were able to put in the image placeholders and the text placeholders were quite defined, and it meant that with different authors we could get a consistent output on that old design. It also meant that we had to deal with a pretty terrible interface with MailChimp, and we of course had to deal with a whole bunch of bugs. Most notably the vertical dragging of the blocks, where in many cases a new block added at the bottom would refuse to be dragged up the top, and you had to drag all the ones on the top down below it, and that was a real pain. So we actually set out with the new template and designed it using the old MailChimp template engine, and in testing it just was so infuriating to use. We've now updated to the template V2. The template V2 now uses MailChimp's new layout engine. You'll find this super easy to use. It is much improved from what we've been doing. But of course, the great Stan Lee said, "With great power comes great responsibility," because we're now taking the kind of guide rails off, and it is more. It is easier to break things, to mess up the overall look and feel, to add elements that are not in accordance with our style guide, and just to kind of get yourself in a tiz. So it does take a little bit more care and attention, but it is not that hard, and the benefits are so much better. The steps to create a campaign using the new template are a little different, but the preparation has not changed. These are all bullet points from the initial training presentation for the V1 template. And in a nutshell, you want to be prepared. You want to have all your photo assets ready, sized if possible. You want to have all your articles typed out in a text editor or Word, something like that. Have all your content ready to go. Do not be editing it live inside MailChimp, or do not be typing it, because it's a web browser. It can have a network interruption, something can go wrong, you can lose work. Don't do it. Have it all ready beforehand before you log in to MailChimp. So new to use this new template in editing a campaign. Previously, you would go into, most people would go into campaigns and select the last one and duplicate it, which is fine. Introduce some problems. I think the last few months, some of our newsletters going out have had broken links in the campaign. Some of the image resources have been modified or got lost, and we're getting missing images. So a better way to do it is to go into campaigns and then go into the email templates section in the left yellow menu there. Find this new V2 newsletter, and you can see here we've got V2.01. It'll possibly get revved in the future when we're adding new block types or fixing bugs. But find the most recent one. You click on the right hand side the little disclosure button from the edit menu and click create campaign. That will take you straight into the familiar campaign builder, where you select the title and the audience and then get into the design part, which we're going to do with a demo. Before we look at the demo though, let's have a quick look at the style guide. So this was the style guide, which was prepared by, as I said, Tony. It it talks about the logo, how it should be spaced, different color variations of the logo. How not to use a logo. We talk about the colors, and you can see the hex color specifications here, the secondary colors, and you can see some of these dot figure type poster arrangements we could have. And of course it talks about all the typography. Now for printed material, we will use Gotham Black is the actual specified font, but Gotham Black is actually a commercial font. It's not going to be installed on many people's computers, and it is certainly not a web safe font. So when sending out web content, emails and web pages, the recipient isn't likely to have that font, so that's why we've used Arial as the closest approximation. Tony also prepared for us an example of what the new newsletter would look like. So this is what we're kind of going for with our new template, and we see we've got this kind of dot figure at the top with this new logo, the new font here. You can see this is all set in Arial, and really it's kind of similar. We're still having a kind of vertical presentation, but there is a lot more white space. Everything's spaced out a little bit more, bit fresher, bit more modern looking. See here we've got featuring one of our platinum sponsors in the body of our articles rather than all at the bottom, which we think is an important thing. But otherwise it's familiar, but just a little bit fresher and has a little bit more kind of breathing room. So this is the kind of thing which we're going for. Again, I'll give you all a link to where you can download and have a look at all these things. Let's go in and do a live demo of MailChimp. So we've logged into to MailChimp here at the dashboard. Let's have a quick look first at where are we? The audience, and we can see all these different audiences here from the screenshot, which we want to try and clean that up in time and replace the functionality there if it's still needed with tags. But here we go. We will go into campaigns, email templates, and create a new campaign. Okay, so now we should be quite familiar territory here. So we can say this is SP Test A as the campaign title. We can pick some recipients. So of course, I'm definitely not going to send this. So I'm not going to send out some rubbish to anybody. We go edit. And we're into our new V2 templates. So familiar yet a little different. We can see we've got different controls down here. So we're no longer limited to the 7 blocks that were defined in the V1 template. You could, if you chose to, add any of these elements anywhere in the campaign. And that's absolutely okay. If you add blocks from here, you've just got to make sure that you're applying the correct styles. But what we've done to make things easier is to set up the template with examples of all the common blocks that are likely to be used. So you can see we've got all the sponsors down the bottom, and we've got, you know, these different kind of block types. You know, this one including the photos, this one just text, this banner image, and the text here. As I say, the common kind of blocks that you would like to use. What I would suggest is that you do not delete any of these that are not needed until the end, and you use these as the source of your content blocks rather than dragging the kind of bare blocks in from over here, because all these guys allow you to duplicate them out, and of course that will then contain all the styling in accordance with the style guide. Okay, you can see if we edit over here, the editing panel is exactly the same as what you're used to. There's not any changes here. And here's the style guide where we can apply header 1, header 2, or the regular text down the bottom. So super easy. The nice thing is that the drag and drop actually works. So we don't have to put things at the bottom and laboriously drag them all up. The image placeholders are all these tangerine blocks. So if we wanted to do it the same as we've been doing in the past, we could replace that. It will go into the content manager. If I just do that and insert, there we go. We can change the alignment. What else can we do? Set a border if we wanted to, but you know, as it is quite fine. So really, that's all there is to it. You know, it's not too different from what you've been using before, and I think if you start with, you know, until you get familiar with the new blocks, start using the ones that come with the template, duplicate them as necessary, reorder them, and then finally at the end delete the ones that you don't need. You're going to achieve the consistency. It's going to come baked in with the style, and it's going to be pretty straightforward to use. Following here, the testing, if we go into preview, sending the test emails, unchanged. That is all exactly the same. So I think a great improvement. It should be much quicker and much less frustrating to pull these newsletters together, and the output, the visual style is much more fresh and much more modern. There is, if I go back to me, so for those who are happy doing that, that's fine. Go for it. Your next email, please use this new template. If you get stuck, please call me or email me, and I'll do my best to help. I'm gonna continue and show you what's next and what we're working on, and this is available. If anyone thinks that they like the look of this and want to try this additional optional method, give me a shout and we can go through that in person. But basically, MailChimp has what we call an API, an application programming interface, which allows us to do a lot of the work programmatically. We can create a campaign. We can even set all the content of the campaign, the recipients of the campaign, and even send it programmatically without actually even logging into the MailChimp website at all. Okay, so how does that work? Let me go back to here. I've got a text file open up in one of my text editors, and I've got the font up nice and big, so I hope you can see it. What you can see here, we've got blocks with a title in these square brackets. The one at the top is different. It's called campaign, and we have a key in the blue and a value, mostly in red, sometimes in white. You can see at the top there, In the campaign block, we're specifying the things like the title, the subject, the segment we want to send the email to. And then we have got a number of blocks. The title of each block just has to be unique. It could be anything that makes sense to us. And you can see for each block, there's a couple of common keys. We're specifying the type. This one's a button, this one's a 2-column image. We're specifying the title for some cases, no URL. So this button is going to say, present these words, and if you click it, it's going to go to that URL. The 2-column image, we're giving it the link to the image source, which we've taken from the MailChimp content manager. We've got the alternative text, which is used if people have images turned off or they have some accessibility features enabled. We've got the URL, the link that will, the destination link if you click on the image, and that's repeated for the second image. If we go down here, we have some text. So here's the big text box. We've got the title and the body. Now this body, you can see it's got some unusual characters. We've got a kind of arrow thing here. We've got a couple of hash marks here. Some of you may recognize this. Jane, I know you did a little work in Markdown. This is called Markdown. It is a way of specifying formatting using text, and it is quite concise, quite easy to learn. If you Google Markdown syntax and have a little look if you're interested, you'll find it's very easy to use and actually has some pretty powerful things. Basically, you can type Markdown text and then with a style sheet present it as a web page or rich formatted text. So here we're typing in Markdown, and we're adding another couple of blocks with some images and whatnot. Now the interesting thing, what we can do with this is I have one of my development tools, so don't freak out. I'm not going to ever ask anyone to use something like this, but you can see I've got this text ini file, and I can send it to our servers. Now this will take about 5 minutes, but basically what this is doing is sending that text ini file to our servers, and the server is going to automatically create the whole newsletter campaign for us. You see that's done now. That will actually, if we logged into MailChimp now, we would see that campaign in our drafts folder, and it's actually going to send me a test email back so I can look at it, and I'll show you in a second. Now, this developer tool that we're looking at now can be replaced just with a web page where you could, if you wanted to use this system, prepare that text file and drag the text file onto a web page, which would do the uploading process. Ultimately, we're going to write a nice user interface, a website, and possibly an iPhone, iPad application where you're going to be able to, through a nice user interface, construct that text file behind the scenes. So you won't actually be typing directly into the text ini file. You will be using an interface to construct it to give you the same power where you can create campaigns much more quickly without having to log into MailChimp. But as I say, anyone who wants to jump in early, who would be comfortable working on the text file, let me know, and I'll give you the rundown on that. But if we look at what, this was the style guide, if we look at the sample email that's sent back, just from that text block, that's created this email. So that's just the test image that I put in, but you can see that Markdown has given me all this formatting, where that little arrow we saw, well, that's the quotation indent, that's given us this. We've got a unordered list, we've got a link, all just from that Markdown text, very simple. We can see this a sponsor ad that's gone in here. I actually didn't configure that. So in this ini file, there's nowhere here where I've configured that. The system, because we're now doing things programmatically, has put it in automatically for us. And in fact, every time we do a programmatic newsletter, you can see I've got, after one element, two element, the third element is going to be one of our platinum sponsors, and it will rotate automatically. So this is 40/40. Next time it might be Echo Cartons. It could be anybody, we just don't know, but it does it itself. We don't have to worry about it. Here's all the different block elements it's put in. All without me having to ever log into the MailChimp website, and we know that we're going to get that terrific consistency. All the sponsors down the bottom are ready to go. So we don't have it turned on from the text file process that it would send it out to an audience. We could, but at the moment for the stage of development, you would have to log back into MailChimp just to press the send button if you were happy with it. But still, I think is a good time saver. So anyone who wants to have a look at that, let me know. But you don't have to do it if the text file is a bit too Wild West. Use the previous method. Just log into the MailChimp website, go into email templates, new template, and copy and rearrange the blocks that are presented there, and you'll get that consistency, and you should be able to avoid all the old MailChimp bugs that we've had to deal with before. I think we've done the demo. If we go back to our slide deck, I think we're done. Thank you guys for putting up with this raw and unedited here we go, presentation from virtual me. I hope it made sense. Give me a call or an email if any questions. Thanks, guys.